Season 2 of the Pat and JT podcast.
Oh man, I'm here at last. The best time, always gonna be the best. Come on!
Exclusively on the Hurrdat Media Network.
402-403-9478. Text to us.
You know what's really funny? We just starting our podcast, and I just pulled the biggest bonehead move. And funny thing is, I'm listening to a podcast on the way in, and this exact same thing happened on this podcast that I was listening to.
Seriously?
And it's a podcast. It's like 3 or 4 people that are on it, and this is the first time one of their guys was back on the podcast, and so they were having some sips, as they called them. We were having some sips.
Some sips.
So they were recording it the night before.
You had sips this morning?
No, that's the thing is I wasn't drunk. They were, and what I did is I stepped over my headphone cord, but for whatever reason, depth perception was not kicking in this morning, and if I hadn't tried, everything would have been fine. Because I tried to miss it, I not only hit it, I pulled everything off the table.
Hilarious.
Everything flew. And when everything went off the table, can you replicate what it sounded like?
Oh, I don't know. I'll certainly try. We have all of our like music and this kind of stuff on these little buttons that are
hotkeys,
right?
Hotkeys
that are like, just touch them.
Yeah.
But when the thing hits the floor, they all just kind of.
Season 2 of the
Like it was dogs barking, kids screaming. All our intros for all of our podcasts we produce are all just going crazy.
My God, I about died.
I
was like, is it okay? It's fine.
Yeah, that was super hilarious.
It just flew off the table. Everything flew off the table.
And nothing broke, nothing. Only one little plug half unplugged, so you wouldn't even know that it happened.
Right.
Other than the
Season 2 of the
just disaster.
That right there is the soundtrack of my life.
Right.
That's what that is.
How was your Tuesday? Pretty much. That's funny.
And it was so startling. And then I was sitting there thinking, God, I just listened to this happen on that other podcast on the way here this morning.
Well, I had my headphones on, and I wasn't looking at the equipment, but I was looking at my phone, and the equipment was behind me, and it was there, it was gone.
Everything just flew off the table so fast.
Oh, that's hilarious.
It was like a magic trick.
So in that, it doesn't break when you do that, but you push one combination of buttons wrong, and it fries the motherboard.
Right? And I'm surprised I didn't fry the motherboard.
Oh, well, I haven't put it through its paces yet. We'll have to see how this turns out.
Well, maybe it'll happen to somebody else later today and we can blame them.
Well, we'll just blame Cam anyway. So we got a text at 402-403-9478. This is from Carrie. Thanks for the second text telling me your name. Because I would have called
very
you
good.
on.
Okay.
I would have put you on Gigablast. She said, talk about Bennett and his roommates getting the highest level of Cox Gigablast for their new house.
Yes.
He says, if they are all gaming, they do need Gigablast. She pays $190 something a month.
Wow.
But with cheaper plans, I was consistently paying overage fees.
Right.
So with a full house of gamers, yeah, that's probably...
And it totally makes sense. I mean, when you think about it, the number of hours that I guarantee they play.
Oh, yeah.
And then when you divide that by this and add this and carry the 2 and all this, it's like, it's not that much.
Right.
In the grand scheme, because they're splitting it too, right?
Right, they're split it 3 ways.
So
it's not terrible.
It's not terrible, but then,
going from having to pay $0 for your internet to having to split it 3 ways, that's going to be a shock to those boys.
That's a shock to his system regardless.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I still, paying $100 a month, I'm pissed most every month. Because it's like, invariably, I lose a call or it won't fire or I have a bad connection or, it's always something. And it's like, the next step is I don't need Gigablast.
Right.
Okay.
You don't need Gigablast. You're not a gamer.
I'm not a gamer.
You're not a gamer.
I just want to watch a video once in a while.
Without a buffering?
Right. That's all I'm asking. Isn't there a level between that?
Yeah. Probably not. They don't make money that way. They got to bump you up.
I don't want Gigablast.
Okay, so funny, it has something to do with kind of internet-y sort of stuff. A few weeks ago, which Sweet Stock was almost 3 weeks ago now? 3 weeks ago coming up this
Seriously, it's been almost a month.
Saturday.
Yeah.
And Dax and Adam were in Hollywood Raw Podcast. They were here and we talked to them and everything. But when I picked them up at the airport and I was editing a video this morning and I saw this, completely forgot about this is the one thing. As soon as we got to town, they're like, we need to drive by Warren Buffett's house. Got to go address. So I took them the long way around so we could drive by Warren Buffett's house.
I just want to point out too, because you had them in your Jeep.
In my Jeep.
So one was in the back seat.
Yes, one was in the back seat.
And
one was in the back seat. And I I've got a picture of it. I'll post it, but I put it on my story at the time.
It's so funny.
But we drove by. So that's all they want to do is drive by Warren Buffett's house. And the two things that they took away, that Adam took away from it.
Yeah.
Well, they both did, and everybody does, is the fact that it's so underwhelming of a house for the fifth richest man in the world.
It's in a very, it's just in a very accessible neighborhood, a really nice neighborhood.
Oh, it's nice, but when you
not
like
the McMansion you expect,
right? And coming from where Dax does in Orange County, like you have somebody that's not even in the top 100,000 richest people in the world have a house 50 times bigger.
And there are houses in Omaha that are ungodly huge. That are just like that's where you would expect Warren Buffett.
Exactly.
But that's not who he is.
And that's what they took away. They're like, well, I thought the house would be bigger, and I told them that going up. But the other thing that Adam noticed, and he didn't say it till like 2 hours later, he goes, he had DirecTV. He has a satellite on the side of his house, DirecTV. He goes, just the remote alone, I would never get DirecTV. He goes, the fifth richest man in the world has freaking DirecTV. And I thought of all the things you could have noticed is that he has I didn't even notice he had a DirecTV satellite on his house.
It's more, it stands out more to me now when I see a satellite dish because I don't have one anymore. And now when I see one, I'm just thinking, because like my parents have one, right? And I want so bad for them to get a Roku TV. I want them to have Hulu or Sling or, one of those because I know that they would enjoy the interaction better and they'd enjoy the remote more.
That DirecTV remote, man.
But you get a Roku TV or just have the Roku and one remote runs your television, and it's really super simple, has like 5 buttons on it. It's so easy. But I can't get them to turn that corner. You probably remember, 2 decades ago when I was trying to get my mom to get a digital camera. She loves taking pictures. She's a good photographer, 35 millimeter, right? That was her thing. Film. And now she's all about the digital. But it took her 15 years to turn the corner. I've been working on that dish. So every once in a while I'll see a dish on a house. I'm like, I wonder if that's still like,
come on, people, cut the cord.
Just do it.
Come to this side of the fence. It's so much better.
It's so free.
It's so freeing. Yes.
It's like taking your bra off, girls.
Right?
It's just like awesome.
It's like taking your bra off, girls.
But that's funny, though, that he noticed that. And it's also funny that the dish is in a place that's visible.
Right.
Because you would think that would be one of the, okay, here's the deal. I want the dish. We can't be able to see it from the street. We need to have it off this side. We got to be able to point this direction. That whole thing. You would
it's
think.
Hilarious. Yeah, it's just hilarious.
Not hanging off their back deck.
Yeah. So I just thought that was funny. That was their takeaway.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. And I wonder if they've done Google Earth on his house.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe
to see because like the compound it is much bigger than it appears because there's a lot more behind it.
Yeah,
I think there's like a tennis court there and.
Yeah, it's all packed.
Not that I ever have.
Not that you've Googled anything and stalked them.
I'm not kidding you. There are neighborhoods in particular in Omaha that I've never seen because you don't drive through them because they're not on your way anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And so now that we've moved to our new offices, completely different part of town that I've never really traveled to for a long time. I'm trying to think here. When I was a little kid, 108th and L, there was a huge truck stop on the northeast corner of that intersection. And I can't remember the name, but I remember it, that was before Sapp Brothers was on the interstate. And
I kind of vaguely remember.
There was a huge truck stop, and that was where his mom and dad had a trucking company. And so we would go there sometimes to meet dad, or trucks were there. It was like, I just vaguely have memories of that. So that was what this intersection always meant to me. And then we're on John Galt Boulevard is where we're at also. And there was a connection there with my mom and a friend. Her friend was married to a real estate developer, and he named this little, it's just like 6 blocks?
Yeah, little tiny loop.
Little loop, John Galt Boulevard, because that was one of his favorite books was Anne Ryan's Atlas Shrugged. And that was John Galt was a character.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Atlas, I have no clue what you're talking about, but I'll take your word for it.
I'd never driven on it before until we started working here.
Oh, really?
I'd never been down this little loop before. Didn't even make the connection that, oh my God, it's actually 108th and Q. You can turn right onto it.
Yeah.
108th and L. But anyway, so this whole neighborhood. So driving to work, I hate getting on the interstate between Dodge and Center and Q. Dodge and Q. Oh
yeah, well, it's just a cluster. The whole area is just a mess.
It is. So I've been kind of meandering through some neighborhoods and going down like 114th between Pacific and Center is a gorgeous neighborhood. And just huge lots of really cool homes that are back in there. And so, yes, I may have Googled a couple of those. And there's a couple on Pacific Street also has got a lot of really amazing neighborhoods up in that area. And
super expensive.
Super expensive, super spendy. I did happen to look up realtor.com to see what was out that way. And I'm like, well,
never mind.
Okay.
I'll go back to my .net that I use.
I'll stay over here. Never mind. I'll stay where I'm at. Okay, fine. I can. But it's ridiculous right now. But yeah, there are some really cool places. But yeah, the houses in some of the neighborhoods, and if you get a chance, it's like you never think to because you're trying to get somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Taking a Sunday drive just doesn't make sense anymore with the price of gas either. That's for sure. Anyway, so I saw a article. Somebody posted it on social media and people were commenting about it. But it said that children that are picky eaters are more likely to develop depression or ADHD as adults.
Really?
And
why?
I don't know what they mean by picky eaters, as in they won't eat certain things. I was kind of picky in that my food couldn't touch other foods.
Like that I would think that would create anxiety. If you're a kid
if people try and make you do it.
Well, and like just like trying to keep it separate, like if you go to a restaurant and it's not or whatever, I would think that would create anxiety, which could turn into, I suppose, depression down the road.
I don't know. It never really affected me in a restaurant because generally they don't like casserole your stuff. You know what I mean? Like mix it all up. Everything's in a certain pot, but it's like, yeah, there was that. I don't know where that came from either. That not letting my foods touch, and then also when I was eating something, I would eat one thing, and then when I moved on to something else, I wasn't going back to the other one.
That's so weird.
I know. It's
so weird how that mirrors your dating life.
And that
as soon as you got done sampling Randy over here, you didn't go back to sample Randy anymore. You moved on to Carl.
Nope. Yep, that's it.
Yep.
We done. Don't ever go back.
Never go back to Randy.
There's a reason you left.
That's right. But so if you like, so you have to finish. So if you sit down, you have beans, steak, and potatoes. You eat the beans.
I start with the steak.
Okay, so you eat the steak and then you eat the side things last after the steak? Because if you took a bite of steak and then you took a bite of beans, you couldn't go back and finish the steak.
I wouldn't do that. It's not
God forbid.
Not like by accident.
God forbid. I mean, that's a crime.
Now I would.
So you would eat the whole thing, the whole steak, and then you eat the whole beans or whatever, and then the whole potatoes.
I'd eat what I wanted of it. Let's just put it that way.
Okay, so you wouldn't have to eat the whole thing, but once you took your fill of steak, then you'd move on to your fill of the next thing and the next thing, and then you'd be done.
Yes. That was how it was. It's not that way anymore. It's not like that anymore.
Okay.
Trust me, I've so fallen off that horse. Okay. Trust me. I'm off that wagon in the ditch. Trust me, I don't care anymore.
I was going to say, there's got to be some medicine out there that can help you.
But I don't know where that comes from because it's like, I know it's a control thing.
Well, that's weird. Again, right on brand. But it's like a control for yourself. Like it's a control, but it's you.
It's me. But I wasn't going to be told how to do it.
But who's telling you how to do it?
Well, of course, what do you think? Your parents are...
that's true.
They're going to tell you. They're going to be like, why are you doing it? Would you finish this? Go back and eat this. And I'm like, nope, I'm done.
Even if you wanted to, you wouldn't because they told you? Or just in general?
Just in general. Yeah, it wasn't like, okay, you're done. Not going to... it was literally, I was just like, done. Moving on. It wasn't like a rule. Wow. It just was a thing. That's just how it was. But yeah, I can see the anxiety side of it, though. If somebody's trying to make you eat things you don't want to eat. That causes anxiety.
Yeah.
Regardless. So I kind of get it.
And if you're a picky eater, meaning you don't like a lot of stuff, like you.
That's why I don't know for sure if they were determined picky eaters as in what they were eating or how they were eating.
And I could see where both, like what we just talked about, I could see where that could create anxiety. Yeah. And if you're a picky eater, meaning you don't like a lot of things, you're always disappointed in every meal. So you're like, well, there's nothing really out there for me to eat. So I could see where that could turn into like wah wah.
And then you have people trying to make you eat things. Just try this. Have one bite. Try this. Try this. Like, why? If I don't want it, I don't want it. It's just,
I think that's super frustrating when people don't do that. When people don't eat, like when I know the kids specifically, when they don't try something, they're like, I don't like it. Well, you have to just try it. I don't want to try it.
Then you need to say, you can't have that.
Well,
and see how long it takes for them to eat it.
Oh, yeah.
You can't have this.
You cannot have.
Everything over in this cupboard is mine. You can't have it. You can have the stuff over here because that's your kid-approved shit.
Oh,
so you can have your stuff that you like, right?
Yeah.
Because about the time you tell somebody they can't have it, well, I'm going to have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I could try that.
You can't have sushi. It's too expensive for you.
Oh, yeah.
What? Are you kidding me?
Now you'd have sushi every day.
Right. Yeah. But I see your frustration, though, because you're like, they're going to like it.
Because it doesn't make sense. Because this is exactly this. It's just in a different form. It's the exact thing.
You're talking about ordering number 6 or number 2 on Taco Bell's.
Or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Right. I don't understand it. I just don't understand.
All the same stuff.
All the same stuff.
But just in different order. Got it. Okay. Really sad to see the news, too, about Norm MacDonald passing away.
Right. Surprising. Didn't even know he was sick.
Which is what he wanted. But, man, that's like almost a decade that he'd been battling cancer.
No clue.
And he was, without a doubt, just like one of the best low-key funny guys.
Oh, my gosh. Sly, funny, hilarious.
I didn't know he was a writer for Roseanne.
No, I didn't either.
I was reading one of the obituaries that was out about his life, and he started as a writer on her show.
Oh, you know what? I did know that Tom Arnold was on the Hollywood Raw podcast, and he mentioned that because Tom Arnold was a writer with him on Roseanne.
Tom Arnold was on there.
Yeah, true. So I did know. I didn't put 2 and 2 together, but I did know that. Yeah.
You just had it in the wrong file.
I just had it in the wrong file.
I didn't tag it right.
Nope.
Didn't click. But I thought that was kind of interesting. But his SNL days were super good. And then he just walked away from that because I think he got a dispute with the producer or director at the time.
I don't remember.
SNL, and he just like, see ya.
And you didn't need it.
Didn't need it. Too funny. But 61, way too young.
Jeez, I know. And for battling it for 10 years. What kind of cancer was it? Did they say?
Didn't see that. I didn't see
either.
So I'm not sure. But somebody mentioned it. Shuley, one of our shows, the Shuley Show, who used to work with Howard Stern. And Shuley was really good friends with Jay Thomas, who was like one of my favorite actors.
Hilarious dude.
Radio guy on top. So that's kind of how I was attracted to him. I think when I first saw him in TV was then to find out about his radio stuff. Because where I had always been, I'd never had the opportunity to hear his radio show. And then when I did, I was like, oh my God, he's really good on the radio, but he's a really good actor. And he was in a couple of really good comedies back in like the 90s, I think.
Yeah. I think wasn't the Jay Thomas show one of his shows?
He
too?
had an actual Jay Thomas show as well.
Yeah.
But he was hilarious, and he was a really big inspiration for Shuley. And so when he died, they did a really cool show for him. But
awesome
somebody
show.
had tagged Shuley on social media asking him about Jay Thomas and Norm MacDonald. And he's like, the parallels are unreal because of how good they both were at what they did, and they both died way too young.
Yeah.
But that's too bad. So I don't want to leave it on a down note.
Wow.
And I feel bad.
Well,
so I guess
we'll just
Season 2
end it where we started.
I don't know about that.
In the absolute dumpster fire.
I was speaking of dumpster fires too. One last thing: if you're a Wheel of Fortune fan, did you know they just started season 39?
No.
39 seasons of this show, and apparently they made a bunch of tweaks to the show for the 39th season.
Why?
They changed a bunch of things, and I think it was because the executive producer had been replaced, and it was the executive producer left. He'd been with the show forever, and these changes, I think, were things that people had wanted to do, but he wouldn't allow them to do over the years. And so after he left is when then Pat and Vanna signed on through 2024 themselves, and then they made all these changes. And I got to reading some of the remarks. Some people are pissed.
You don't mess with people that like Wheel of Fortune. They like it the way they like it.
They changed some things, and one thing that they changed that apparently Pat Sajak had always wanted, because he always did the final spin, and he didn't feel that was appropriate. I'm like, oh my God, he's got way too much honor. But he didn't feel it was appropriate because the host shouldn't have a hand in the outcome. Like spinning the wheel.
I mean, I get what he's saying.
And the person who was winning should be the one who gets to spin the wheel.
I get it. I totally get it, but come on, dude.
Overthinking it, right?
For the love.
And I think they did a couple other things, like they took off a free spin marker or something. They took off, they changed some colors, and they updated the
letters. Got people in a twist.
There are some people that are really pissed.
You guys there's many more things in this world to be freaked out about. Don't worry about that.
Pat and Vanna are there, and they're going to be there for at least
easiest gig in the world. Absolutely.
Can you imagine falling into that?
No, absolutely. And why would you ever quit? But you would never quit, especially with them working 1 or 2 days a month. And I don't know what show it was on, but it might have been like a Dateline or whatever, where they did like a behind the scenes of a shooting day or a week with those guys, and how many times that in the beginning, even up until like the 20th season, they'd go over to lunch, and in between, like in the middle of the shooting, they shoot like 15 episodes, go over and get buzzed and get hammered at lunch and come back and be popped recording. I think it's hilarious, but why not?
But they would record, I think it was like 5 shows a day.
Yeah, for a week, and that was it. That was it. That's all they do.
So they'd change clothes, then do another game, change clothes, do another game. Yeah, exactly. And that they would get drunk sometimes during the middle of the day and come back and play.
It just never quit that job.
The thing is, I mean, where those skills don't carry over somewhere else. For Pat Sajak, yes. Vanna would be screwed.
Yeah.
Because anymore, you really don't need somebody to spin those letters.
She just touches them
now. Now, she doesn't even spin them anymore.
No.
She's almost been put out of work.
Yeah.
Thanks to technology.
So they both better just count their blessings.
But 40, so they'll be there 42 years by the time it's the end of this contract.
They both look awesome, but they are far away from the camera.
This is true.
Yeah. As the years go by, the farther the letters get away.
It's like the 50-yard look. It's like, see my house from 50 yards looks amazing.
It looks so good.
Then you get up close. Whoa. Yeah, exactly. So there.
So we'll leave it on a happy note. There we go. It's Pat and JT on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thank you guys so much for listening to our podcast.
Nebraska Preps
Pat and JT Podcast, a Hurrdat Media Production.